Hopefully this is working. I'll keep it short and sweet to the best of my ability. But it's funny, in my brain, I'm like, I've had better days. Like that's kind of my framing on the day. But nothing bad happened. I got up, I did good work this morning. I had a good time with my clients. I've got a few people out of town, so it's maybe a little slower today than normal, but like overall, I actually had a solid day. And now I just got home after finishing a pretty solid workout, and dinner is cooking. I'm in a good place. And it's like my brain is so good at finding all these little things to to nitpick and to like just find like what's wrong with this picture. And in some ways that's a valuable skill set, but in other ways it makes it a lot less fun to exist. Like there's some little part of me that's just always looking for like what's wrong or what can I be doing more of right now or whatever it might be. And I think in some ways I kind of rationalize this of where it's like, oh, well, that's just what it takes to be great. And it's like, well, kind of. You do have to work relentlessly and you have to focus really, really well on a very narrow slice of all of the possible things that you could do to pick the one thing that you want to be excellent at least for a given season of your life. And even if I acknowledge that that's true, or I could be slightly more nuanced about it, but I think broadly I agree with how I just framed that. The endless kind of backseat driving in my own brain, I just don't think it helps. I don't think it does any good for anyone, and especially not me. And so, what I'm going to try is just run the experiment of try to operate being as appreciative as I possibly can all the time. And I'm not going to be perfect with it. It's an asymptotic goal, just like everything else. But I want to strive for that being my default emotion. And I think I've done a much better job of this, of like, it's pretty close to my default emotion already. Default isn't quite right. But it might be a plurality. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if on specific days I'm in a mode of being appreciative and thoughtful like 40% of the time. But I'd like it to be more like 85. And I think that that's also conducive to enhancing my sense of agency too, of like figuring out, okay, there are a lot of things that I can't control, but what can I influence? Where do I actually have some meaningful leverage to bring my ideas to life? And I think I've been doing substantially better with this recently, but that's what I'm going to try to optimize for. It's just being as appreciative as I can, using my breath to control my attention. And where before the way that I was phrasing this was spending the highest percentage of my time meaningfully that I could, I think the actual underlying value of what I'm trying to achieve is basically the same, but I think that this is a slightly better angle on it because whereas meaningfully is rather open ended and is kind of hard to pin down as far as what qualifies for that. I think being appreciative in my mode of being is going to be more conducive to spending my time meaningfully than actually having that as a target, because if I'm doing something and I can't appreciate anything about it, like, and even that could be like training really hard and I'm pushing myself hard and it's like, man, isn't it great that I don't have to feel like this all the time? Like that's part of it too. Like just on the last rep, your brain is nowhere else besides exactly where you are, and there's something magical about that. And for a lot of us, especially myself, who has just spent so much time lost in my nonsense, it grounds me a little bit. And so I think that there's a way to be a lot more appreciative than I have been. And if I can cultivate that as my default state of being, largely through using my breath to, let's say, nudge my attention, I think that for this season of my life, of where I'm really working on music and meta skills, that's exactly where I need to be. I don't know, so I'll run that experiment as I go, and we'll just see. But I filmed a video this morning. The camera is cropped a little close, but it's whatever, better than what the recent ones have been. So hopefully this is actually recording and working well. I gotta make a better setup for this, because like theoretically my watch should solve this problem, but it doesn't actually work very good. Like sometimes it just won't even connect to the camera, which is what happened today. No idea why. I'm sure there are things that I could figure out that would be better on that end. But yeah, just making this more consistent. But that's exactly the process of doing this right now. And so, especially as I'm working on ways to actually get my music out to the world, having gone through this over the past few months of just being consistent and feeling out all the little things, like I think my lighting is substantially better now. I think I have a decent sense of how to have my camera set up to make it fairly consistent, but it's just like the actual getting the phone to go and not magically zooming in like all the way into my face. I have no idea how I'm doing that. It's really confusing to me. But I just I'll figure it out, right? And that is the process of this channel, is like documenting the learning journey. But I think I can do a better job of like going back to what I was doing for a minute, of revisiting my old notes and my old voice memos. I think that was valuable. It's just over the past few days I've been thinking so much about the specific workflow with the music that I've been building, and See Me Now version 1 is coming together. I'm excited for it. Like it feels the way that it needs to feel. And I don't have all of it built yet. At least not the way that it needs to be to finish, but like the beginning and the end are right. And so now it's just making it flow smoothly together. And I'm in a good place. So yeah, so this is my second video for today, to kind of like make amends for not filming yesterday, of where I'm trying something slightly new, which is, rather than tethering filming the video to airplane mode, I'm tethering filming the video to my caffeine intake. And so yesterday I didn't have caffeine, so theoretically I could like weasel my way out of that one, but I hate that. So 2 today to kind of make up for that. And no matter what, on like some definitions of the quote-unquote 100-day challenge, I've kind of already failed it, in that there have been days of where like I have the videos, I just got to figure out what to do. Well, I don't have the videos, that's the problem. I have like a nonsense video that's either like all the way zoomed into my face, or I accidentally had the camera flipped and it's like recording my screen on the backside. Anyway, like, so just a video of my reflection in my laptop screen while I'm talking, which is not very good. So I'll figure out what to do with that. But like, that's just, it's not the point of the 100-day challenge at all. The entire point of it was just to see how much I could improve my life over the course of 100 days and just be consistent with this. And I think largely I've been pretty good about it. And not just that, but like the directional trajectory of my life feels different now. And some of those things, like specifically the audio upload feature on the AI music, like that wasn't something that I knew about at the time that I started, but that in conjunction with the overall practices that I've been putting into practice. I should have said protocols putting into practice, but anyway, I feel not that I'm on a different path, but more like I just found a piece of the treasure map that I was missing, and it's helping me get to the next step. It's not a perfect analogy, but whereas before I had my broad direction, but doing the most meaningful work didn't feel super actionable to me, I've been able to reframe that, and I have a real tangible thing that I can work on in making music. And no, it's not the only thing that I want to do, but it really does matter to me. And I genuinely believe that it's probably the highest value thing that I can do with my time right now. In terms of positively impacting people's lives, in terms of beginning to build a community, in terms of developing the skill sets that I need for the future, and just becoming a better navigator of life. And I never get to run the counterfactual, but I've never had a time that I made music and like, oh man, I wish I didn't write that song and process that emotion. But I have had times of where I intentionally cut it out and just totally regret that. And it's hard because to do great work, you do need to be focused. But I feel like there are some things that if they're really core to who you are and to your overall self-development, that cutting them out is a mistake. And for me, even if I was not actively engaged, so I'm thinking of 2022, and there's no way that I could be doing what I'm doing right now, not only because the tools didn't exist, but just like the time commitment of, seriously, over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I probably worked on one song for like 36 hours. But anyway, so that, not super sustainable, but I learned a lot from that process, and I'll continue to get better at it. And as I move forward from here, I know what's important to me. I'm sure I could ramble on forever, but it is important to me to just come in here and record this. Like in my way, it's like kind of my brain's way of atoning for not doing the video yesterday. But like I said, the point of like trying to post every day is not about perfection. Sometimes shit happens, and I don't really have a good excuse for yesterday. I just was fixated on music, and I mean, fair enough. But could I really not sit down and do this? No, it's bullshit. I'm sick of my bullshit. And so anyway, the point is just being very consistent, right? And so the worst way to be consistent is to stake everything on being perfect and having zero misses, and then when you miss for valid reasons or not, then it's like the whole world is crumbling down. Like this is something where with alcohol, I think that people frame this in poor ways, and I can say that for myself because so in my adolescence, I had a lot of shit that I was running from, especially like just trying to numb my physical pain, and not just my physical pain, but like what that meant to me emotionally at that time, and like the narrative that I had around it of like that my body was falling apart. To some extent, that's true, but there are also things that I could do. Anyway, I don't have time for I gotta go eat. But suffice it to say, like the way that I framed alcohol for a long time because of my experience in my adolescence of where I would basically like if I drank, I was having like 12 to 15 shots. Like I'd drink to the point of being like totally numb. Like that was what I was aiming for. And as you might imagine, that didn't go so well for me. Like I would end up just like laying in the rocks in strangers' backyards, and so not a good place to be as a 16-year-old. I had this idea in my brain for a long time that was like, oh, if I drink, then like I'm just gonna go like I couldn't just have one drink, or I'm gonna like fall off the wagon, so to speak, or however it is. But that just isn't really true. But I had that in my brain, and I framed it that way for a long time. But then it kind of creates this self-fulfilling prophecy of where, like, if that's the narrative that you're telling yourself, then that is what happens. And I'm not trying to say what anybody else should do. Like, for example, even just using myself as a separate example, I think I'm happier living a life that is totally free of nicotine. I would just rather have zero, where other people can maybe have a healthy relationship with it. I I'm not 100% sure what that looks like anyway, but like there are different methodologies than like smoking and vaping and shit. But anyway, so I guess with my statement about like all or nothing statements not needing to be, dude, I'm gonna just like cut this one like 10 minutes ago because there's no way that I can wrap this up, and my brain is just like, feed me now. Like I did not eat enough today, so I will work through some of this at a future time. I don't even remember what my point was supposed to be. I guess that's how it goes sometimes. But well, I think it was just like the framing that sometimes the narrative that we tell ourselves is the problem more so than the underlying reality, right? Like, right, I did have that idea after seeing the way that I would drink as a teenager and like not wanting to go down that road again of being like, oh man, if I have one drink, I'm gonna have 12. It's just like, no. Why? And these days, I really don't drink all that often either. I'll drink like maybe once a month if I am going to some sort of social event with my friends. And I will have usually somewhere between like 2 and 4 drinks. And that is probably suboptimal health-wise, like any amount of alcohol above zero. There's no reason to think it's good for you, right? But even just showing myself that I can, I feel like has some value for my brain. Of where like I have the power to stop at any point. And I'm not in the same place that I used to be where I was just running from my pain as much as I could. And so I do think that there is power in rewriting that narrative. Yeah, so something to think about.